The most logical way to attract and grow an ideal audience is to share valuable content, right? Wrong. Providing value is important, but not enough. If all you do is share what you know, why should people choose to go deeper with you? Why should I follow you and buy from you and not someone else who is sharing pretty much the same valuable information as you? So what's the missing element your content needs and why? Let me introduce it to you with an analogy. Imagine life is like a movie scene being filmed. Depending on which lens you use, you get a different perspective on the images you capture. The wide-angle lens shows the big picture, while a zoom lens hones in on specific details. Just like those lenses, every content creator has their own way of thinking and understanding. They have their own unique perspective on a topic. But even having a perspective isn't enough. What your personal brand truly needs to stand out is a fresh perspective, a new way of looking at things, stripped away from cliches that make you sound like everyone else. So how do you develop a fresh perspective? Well, here's the thing. Nothing is truly original. Pretty much everything we see and experience is a reworking of an existing idea. And this is the key. In order to develop a fresh perspective for your content, you need to know how to manipulate the information you have in a fresh, almost unpredictable way. There's 2 steps to achieving this. Number 1, your content input. And number 2, your content output. For your content input, the first thing you need to do is to go on a content diet. Let me explain. If all you do is consume YouTube content, the quality of the information you input in your brain will stay at that same YouTube level, which, let's face it, isn't always the highest. And if you consume content just from your niche, say productivity, your ideas will likely be heavily influenced by that niche and you will sound the same as everyone else in your niche. But if you consume a variety of content across different niches and media, and most importantly, if you include reading a higher quality content type, for example books, it'll be easier to form ideas that carry a fresh perspective. And so just like the healthiest diet is a varied one containing organic quality food, the content you consume should also have quality and variety. So let's say you follow a healthy, varied, high-quality content diet. Let's now have a look at the output. How do you take that varied content diet and turn it into content that carries your fresh perspective? The first step is to have your opinion pillars written down and stick to them. I've talked about opinion pillars and how to develop them in detail in a previous video, which I'll link in the description box down below. But in short, your opinion pillars are your brand's 3 main opinions that guide your entire content strategy. They stem from your personal experience, they embody your brand's mission, and keep your message cohesive. For example, these are my opinion pillars. Once you have your opinion pillars to inform the content you'll write about, the next step is idea generation. It's so important to get into the habit of recording your thoughts daily and assessing which of those thoughts are worth exploring and go deeper with. To do this, I use a method called Zettelkasten. I've also talked about this method in previous videos, which I'll link down below, but in short, it's a method for capturing ideas and processing knowledge. And if you're interested in this, I highly recommend reading the book How to Take Smart Notes, which goes through the process in detail, but here's the gist of it. First, you want to take fleeting notes during the day, and these are ideas that can spark out of any daily event, but may be incomplete and may still need processing. And you eventually want to turn these ideas into permanent or atomic notes. Once processed, your fleeting notes can be tossed, but your permanent or atomic notes are fully formed thoughts with a beginning, middle, and end, and they will remain permanently stored in your personal knowledge database and represent the building blocks of your knowledge you'll draw from when it's time to create fresh new content. Alright, so how is this relevant to our fresh perspective generation process? Here's the thing. Turning fleeting, incomplete ideas into permanent, complete ideas will force you to process your thoughts and face one reality. Is the idea complete, interesting, and deep enough to become a permanent note? Or is it just a shallow, cliche thought, not really worth exploring, at least not right now? If it's the latter, keep the idea as a fleeting one and take more time to process it into a permanent one. Research, read, and continue with your content diet until you're ready to give your unique, fresh perspective to that idea. Alright, now that you've got a database of quality ideas, it's time to sit down and write the actual content. But before you do so, there is one fatal mistake most content creators make, even without realizing it, which could be killing the fresh perspective of your idea you've worked so hard to develop. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a statement so much to the point that it lost its meaning? Statements like, you must find your niche, or the riches are in the niches, or if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. These statements are boring because they're overused and they make you sound like everyone else. Now, this doesn't mean that you must be a contrarian and just disagree with them. Nope, that's not what I'm saying. You could totally agree with these statements, but you must use your own voice to give those statements a fresh perspective, which will turn any stale, old cliche into something unique and interesting. Let me give you an example. I came across a podcast interview by Seth Godin, one of my favorite marketing authors, and in this interview, he discussed the importance of finding the smallest viable audience. Now listen what he says when he talks about the same overshared concept of niching down.
They like to use the phrase niche down. Two negative terms pushed next to each other, niche down. How about specific up? Because that's what we're talking about, is being extremely specific so you can be the best in the world at what you do.
The way he combines those words is not casual. By saying specific up, he wants you to understand you should be extremely specific so that you can be the best at what you do in the world and so that the person who's looking for you will find you. Seth is not saying anything new per se or reinventing what niching down actually means. But by simply rearranging the words and reframing the definition of niching down, he's managed to flip the narrative of a marketing concept every new business owner and creator usually dreads or is confused about. He turned a valuable yet boring, cliche, and negative idea into one that carries an original, fresh perspective. And Seth Godin is known for challenging common, boring marketing perspectives. That's exactly what made his ideas and his personal brand stand out, making him one of the world's most influential marketing figures. Okay, we've gone over what a fresh perspective is and how to develop one. Now let's address the most important question. Why do you need it in your content? Sure, it levels up your content and helps you stand out, but it's much more than that. A fresh perspective is like a light switch, which has the power to switch on a light bulb in someone's mind. If your audience has a problem that's keeping them up at night, it means one thing and one thing only. They haven't found the right solution yet. They may hold beliefs that are blocking them from solving that problem, or maybe they've tried other solutions that simply didn't work. That's where your fresh perspective comes in. By meeting your target audience exactly where they are and offering an alternative they might not have considered, you're giving them something new to think about. And when your idea feels different, it grabs their attention, a light bulb goes off, and they become invested in what you have to say, and eventually they'll want to go deeper and work with you. This is exactly why offering a fresh perspective is the foundation of any effective content marketing strategy. Your content is there to attract an ideal audience and walk them closer to solving their problem thanks to your solution by becoming a client. But before you work on developing a fresh perspective for your content, there is another element your content needs to have in order to attract your ideal audience. And actually, this is something that's completely overlooked by most new creators trying to grow an audience. And if we don't address it, all the effort you put into developing your fresh perspectives will go to waste. Alright, Marta, so what's this mistake? Watch my next video to find out.